Hi. So I'm a bit of a weird duck. Like earlier when we were doing the exercise of like who's a writer and so on and so on. So I'm neither a writer, I'm neither a developer. I'm a site architect. I build stuff by clicking. Like I do that in Drupal. I'm a site builder. And that's kind of a bit weird, I think. Who here knows what is Drupal? Okay, that's more than I expected. Who is using Drupal? Yes. So this is something, I want to do something about this because you see, I think that Drupal is a really, really powerful tool for documentation purposes because it has lots of modules that are doing lots of different pieces of things and you can like combine it all together to build this unified experience to bring all your documentation into one single place. And I think that's probably better than just custom coding everything because then you don't have to maintain all of that code. And I think it makes a lot of sense. But that's not what this talk is about, although maybe to some extent it is, but in kind of like a reversed way. This talk is about embedded documentation. And to tell this story, I need to take you back a little bit to the manual, because for the longest time, the documentarian community has been all about manuals, all about building these beautifully crafted pieces of information where we like put all the information that a user needs or a customer needs to be able to use a product into one single place so that they can find it and then go and use it. And that's amazing, right? Or is it? Because the thing is that even before we had Twitter and Facebook and SMSs and constant distractions that were making people's attention span shorter and shorter and shorter, we already had this problem. And even before we had all of that, people didn't really read manuals. And like all of that beautifully crafted work just was kind of going to waste. And today it's gotten way, way, way worse because like it feels like the world just keeps accelerating. And I feel it on myself that I just keep speeding past experiences that I keep often that I'm not paying attention to learning a product. I just want to bite-size information. I just want it to tell me what I need to do and just get on with it. I just want to be able to just go forward and quickly do what I'm supposed to do without really having to learn a tool and just getting the information like right there. It's kind of like a GPS. Because this is what GPSs do. GPSs took the information that used to be in this beautiful book, beautiful, right? Like maps with like amazing pictures sometimes, that tell you a lot of information, too much information, and condense it down into like bite-sized pieces of information that just tell you only what you need to do, like turn right here, right? And okay, I make it maybe feel a little bit like that's a bad thing, but probably that's a good thing. Because why would you spend your mental energy on learning maps if you could just turn right? But there's other problems that we're seeing today, because the same kind of acceleration that we're seeing on our attention span and like the reduction there and the speed up that's happening there, we also have in our release schedules. Especially if you're working agile, you might have daily releases or even more than daily releases. Or at least like bi-weekly releases. And how do you keep up with your manuals to keep up with that? It's hard, it's difficult. So probably it makes sense to try to bring your documentation closer into your product so that it can evolve together with your product and be at the same speed at least, so that you don't have to play catch up. So I think that as a result, I believe that centralized documentation is not enough. Now, I'm not going to go as far as Sean was going this morning, saying like, burn all the books. I strongly believe in centralized documentation. I think that it plays a really important function. Actually, I believe that documentation might even be more important as a sales artifact today. Because centralized documentation today, when a potential customer goes looking for a product to buy, they stumble upon your information that you have in your documentation. because it's keyword heavy. There's lots of terms that they might be looking for, features. It's all there. It's in your documentation. And they'll probably be evaluating your product through your documentation even before they start talking with you. So part of your sales cycle happens even before people contact you. So, but I think that for support and documentation, we need to go a bit further, that centralized documentation is no longer sufficient. Luckily, documentation does not equal manuals. Luckily, there's other paradigms that are already in use today. And I would like to highlight 4 of them. The first one is contextual text snippets, or microcopy. We had a really interesting talk at the Write the Docs London meetup by Beth Aitman, who talked about microcopy and how she's using it to bring the documentation inside of applications. I really highly recommend you to go and check out that talk. She also did it in Prague, but like there's a longer version of it on the Mozilla, I don't know what the website is, but somewhere on Mozilla, there's her talk recorded from London. Because microcopy, what really struck me in her talk was that microcopy is not just these text blurbs that that you put under a text field or something like that. For example, a link, like a button, could be microcopy. Putting try again instead of submit is microcopy. It's like helping your users through a better use of labels, which you could argue is documentation, to find their way through your application. The second one I want to highlight is mouseovers and pop-ups, or tooltips, or however you want to call them. And we're really, I've found myself unconsciously hovering over elements when I don't really know what they're doing. And most of the time, the interface complies and gives me the information that I'm looking for. You have to be careful, though, with these tools because there's 2 big anti-patterns. If you put them everywhere, they become kind of meaningless. Also, if you have question marks everywhere and then you just repeat the label in your pop-up, that's kind of pointless. Third one is walkthroughs or guided tours. And I don't know, do you know what this is? Yeah? Okay, some people. This is a tool that's, it's a pattern that I've seen evolving in the web community where basically you have these call-outs, like text balloons that say click here or do that there. And when I tell this, I'm sure that you've seen them in a lot of different places. They help customers by creating a sort of journey through an interface. That could be just exploratory or even task-oriented to help you fulfill a job that you're trying to do. Shameless plug, we built an open source tool for this. You can find it on walkabout.net. It's a tool for recording this kind of walkthroughs. It's free and open source. The last one that I want to highlight are help centers. And I'm not really sure if this is the right label for them because it's kind of evolving right now. But I see this pattern a lot. It's these, this get help icons in the bottom right corner most of the time. And if you click on them, it expands into more information. Sometimes it's like a support chat or something like that. But in a lot of cases, you'll get contextualized information, like links to documentation that's outside of the page, all combined into that. Again, shameless plug. We built another open source tool, Embed The Docs, that is built for that you can also use for free on embeddthedocs.com. Now, I want to take it even further. I want you to imagine something really crazy. What if we would bring Clippy back? Now, okay, maybe not Clippy, but the principle that Clippy was trying to do, right? Because Clippy was, I think, a really good idea. It was just implemented in a pretty bad way. Because Clippy, for people that don't know Clippy, I think everybody knows Clippy, but Clippy was this petulant thing in Office that just kept saying hey, it seems like you're trying to do this. Have you thought about reading this stuff here? And then, everybody was just clicking it away, trying to get rid of it, and it just kept appearing, and it's really annoying. But I believe that as a UI principle, it's kind of interesting. like giving people the information they need at the moment that they need it, before maybe even they have figured out that they need further information, I think that's kind of smart. The only thing that we need to do is we need to make it even smarter. We can't do it rules-based. We can't just go and sit together, even if we do this based on UX experiments. We can't just make a set of rules like, okay, if this is the first time this user enters this application, you need to show this. Because maybe they've just removed their cookies or something like that, and maybe they've already seen that information, and they're going to get annoyed. So we need to make this smarter. And actually, if you think about this, I had been thinking about, like, currently in Silicon Valley, there's this wave of something plus AI. And I think that if you think about, like, what is documentation plus AI, I think this is what documentation plus AI could look like. And the good thing is that a lot of the tools for doing this kind of stuff already exist. This morning, Neil, when he was talking about doing the tracking and like the supports and documentation, bringing that together, these tools exist. They're already out there. In the marketing community, they're heavily using this to personalize experiences, which can be sometimes kind of creepy. But I think that, like, if you would use that kind of technology for documentation purposes, it could make a lot more sense. Because you could use them to, like, drive what kind of things people see when they go and look at your site. Like, you could change the microcopy in your site. If it's a developer, you know they're a developer, you could show them developer talk, like, you know, make sure to follow the regular expression, blah, blah. Or if it's an editor, you could show them editorial stuff, make sure it's pretty text or whatever, you know, I don't want to be condescending, but like you could tune the interface to the person that's sitting in front of it. And I think that we could do a lot of really good things because we could recognize patterns, anti-patterns, like this person has been 3 times around on this page. Most likely they're trying to find it, but like we know from past, from other people that when they're doing this kind of stuff, that they're looking for this. We could do that kind of stuff. And then there would be a lot of rejoicing. Yay. Oh, this is too fast. Yay. So if this sparked your interest, and if you would like to stay up to date about this, sign up. We're also going to do an unconference in Lola's room, like right after this talk, at 4 o'clock, like after the break, at table number 1. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing like how can we do this together, because I think we could do a lot of really important work this way and help explain to management why our job is important. And I think there's some explaining to be done. Thank you.